and not answer. That'd make me look not.
He's come up in conversation, so we're gonna talk to him.
He usually. I'm gonna try him on video. Because he usually answers. If he doesn't answer, I apologise to this audience, Clint.
Yeah, that's no problem. That's no problem. I've not met him before.
I'm also not sure what the internet signal is like in here, guys. We're going to try this. Don't know if it's ringing, you know. It's like it's not ringing, but we've got enough. I've got one bar of signal. We've got enough for me to get messages come back and forth, but it's not ringing. As you can hear that, Clint. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's the speaker? No, that's makes it face the other way. Should be a speaker. I suspect the internet signal is not good enough in the Indigo.
No, I've not got
to
one
do
either.
that. So that.
No.
that
So yeah, no, we were trying to get in touch with Billy Joe Saunders then, but we've got no signal here in the Indigo. But obviously, from talking about Billy Joe Saunders possibly coming back to the sport, let's go and talk about Tyson Fury, because I never get anything right in boxing when it comes to, obviously, you know, who's going to win or what's going to happen. But I got it right with Tyson Fury. I knew that he would come back and he would absolutely sort everybody out and do what he did. There was at times when we were talking about it on social media and everybody thought he was dead and buried and never would come back, and rightfully so. But I knew that that man, when he got determined and sorted his head out and got himself right, that he would do it, and he did it.
He did, and I think at that point, when he came back, even when he got the draw against Deontay Wilder, most people thought he was shafted on that particular night, even though he got knocked down twice. I think the heroic nature in getting up the way he did. There was such a lot of public feeling for him, and you know, it was a massive moment of vindication for Fury. Then he went and smashed Wilder to pieces in a rematch, and his stock was at an all-time high. I would suggest right now, today, April the 1st, 2023, his stock is at an all-time low, because everybody believes that Usyk wanted to make the fight for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world, and he was prepared to jump through hoops and be a little bit bent over backwards for it, and they feel that Fury still obstructed, even though Usyk's team have admitted they walked away from the negotiations, but nonetheless everybody believes Fury didn't want the fight, effectively ducked the fight, and Usyk absolutely did want the fight, and even hardcore Fury fans and die-hard Fury fans seem to have turned on him a bit. I've noticed that.
Have you ever known a fighter to literally go with another trainer like Sugar Hill, and he came out a different fighter? That second fight with Deontay Wilder, he went through him like a bloody bulldozer. He was a completely different fighter to me.
I don't know if he was a completely different fighter. What he did, he had a completely different approach. I saw Tyson Fury in the amateurs going forward like that. He did a similar thing to Damian Campbell from Repton in the ABA final in, must have been 2000 and, I believe it was 2007. It could have been 2008, but regardless, Fury, big strong guy like that who can punch when he sets himself. If he wants to get on the front foot, he can do it. People talk about the Kronk style, the so-called Kronk style. I don't think that really exists. Or, you know, I even heard someone the other day talk about his Kronk power, his newfound Kronk power. But I don't know. I think Sugar Hill told him to fight him the way Emmanuel Stewart would have done, that never mind boxing Wilder and dancing around and trying to avoid his power.
Go out and let him know you're there.
Literally take them let him know you're there, back him up, get him moving backwards, take those long levers away so you're not ever caught at the end of his power, because Wilder cannot fight going backwards. That's one thing he doesn't like to do and can't do. So, I mean, it was a very different look. It was pretty fascinating to see one guy, because most people think Fury beat him by being on his toes the first time, but he didn't get it, and he did nearly get knocked out. There's no denying that. Second time, it wasn't even close, and he absolutely smashed into pieces, like you say, with a complete 180-degree different approach. You know, so I think that is about a coach saying to him, this is the way you've got to fight him. It's not really about what he showed him and giving him attributes he didn't have before. It's about him saying, you need to use this aspect. I know you can do this. Now go out and do it. That's what I think it was.
Yeah, the training staff had faith in him, and he had faith in the training staff, and he went out there and he did what he was told. They stuck to a game plan.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and sometimes you are better off even going to a puncher like that. The basic everyman logic says don't go to a puncher, don't have a fight with him, stick and move. But that's not always a good idea. Sometimes you have to back him up and take it to them. You know, even I mean Ali in the Foreman fight in Zaire in '74, he was intending to dance until he realised it wasn't going to work, and I think he didn't realise until the first round it wasn't going to work. And then he thought, you know what, I mean, all right, he didn't back him up. He stayed on the ropes and let Foreman come to him. But he knew he couldn't contest that fight dancing around the ring, you know. And I think the third Fury-Wilder fight was interesting, though, wasn't it? Because Fury pretty much employed the same game plan, but it was more back and forth on that occasion.
Yeah, for a lot of that fight, it was 50-50. Anything could have happened. Everybody was up on the toes for each fighter.
Yeah, and I think it was a classic. I actually think that fight was better than the Foreman-Lyle fight. You know, it's often held up as maybe the greatest heavyweight slugfest of all time, George Foreman versus Ron Lyle, 1976. I think Fury-Wilder 3 was actually better because, you know what, it was longer. It was twice as long.
Yeah. I think Wilder's come out and said that, you know, he doesn't particularly like Fury and they've sort of fell out again. But out in Saudi Arabia the other day, they were quite pally. So perhaps they're trying to build for a fourth fight. Who knows?
I'd rather not. I mean, it's weird, isn't it? When you see a fight that was so action-packed and exhilarating as a third fight, and I didn't want to see that ahead of time either because I didn't think there was much mystery about it because of the comprehensive job Fury had done in the second fight. I didn't really want to see the third fight. And you know, sometimes you have to hold your hands up and admit you were wrong.
Yeah.
It was a great fight and it was well worth watching. I don't feel we need to see a fourth one, but I suppose someone could argue, but you didn't want to see the third one either, and look what happened. But I mean, you've probably heard as well. They were talking about Chisora White 3.
Yeah.
And I don't know about all these retreads. It's interesting because even though we're not in favour of it as a collective boxing audience, often one of the charms of the old era was they would fight so often, and you'd get these 4 and 5 and 6 fight series between fighters. So maybe we shouldn't be so down on the repetition angle. Having said that, I think people want to see Tyson Fury fight Alexander Usyk, or you know, a lot of people want to see him fight Anthony Joshua still, who fights just up the street.
There's a lot of matches to be made in the heavyweight division, but you know that, you know, obviously speaking on social media and me commenting on some of the chat, I'm very disillusioned with the heavyweight division at the minute, and it's really pissed me off the way it's gone backwards and forwards, and it's the money people are trying to build a fight, the money that they want in the fight isn't there, so they go away and try and build it again. And for me, it's killing heavyweight boxing. How do you think the heavyweight boxers now, the boxing, can redeem itself and come back for the British boxing public and the world heavyweight boxing public?
I think, like you suggest, they've got to make the fights, and I'd say it's not just a heavyweight problem; it's an endemic problem in boxing all the way down the divisions. You know, Terence Crawford and Errol Spence, they can't agree a deal. It was on Twitter yesterday. Oh, apparently, negotiations have restarted, and after a while, you get so bored and jaded with the whole thing. Whenever people defend what happens in boxing, they're usually insiders or people who purport to be insiders, and they say, "Yeah, but boxing's a business." But Matt Christie, the editor of Boxing News, said the other day, and Matt's doing a fine job. He's coming from a position of integrity, and he's a great boxing man. He said, "You say boxing's a business." He said, "But what kind of business continually flunks its biggest deals and can't pull them off? That shows you have a problem. We're not getting it right. It's not like, oh, you wouldn't get it. Well, you know, but the fans need to realise their purchase power, and they need to vote with their feet more. The fans actually need to have the courage of their convictions and boycott. When I say boycott, I just mean nothing grandiose. Just don't buy the things which you don't think are really worthy of your custom. And then, because in the old days they used to say Leonard and Hearns, they're going to fight, or Leonard and Duran, they're going to fight because there's too much money for it not to happen. Hagler and Hearns, they're going to fight because there's too much money for it not to happen. Some people say that today, but they're talking rubbish because it's just a cliche that they've learned from bygone eras. You can't say Fury and Usyk are going to fight because there's too much money involved for it not to happen, because you've already seen how that plays out. There's all that money there and it still hasn't happened yet. Same thing with Spence and Crawford. So the whole axiom that there is too much money for this fight to be circumvented, that doesn't exist anymore. And some fights can just not happen the fighter's whole career. Mayweather Pacquiao, it happened in the end. And did it still make telephone numbers? Yeah, it did. I think it was historically lucrative, I believe, still to this day. With it having been nearly 10 years ago.
And again, there's some great fights that were never made. You know, you look at the heavyweight division in the past with, you know, Riddick Bowe. You know, he should have fought. I mean, it never happened. And perhaps there's going to be some of these fights. I mean, AJ, he may never get in the ring with the Gypsy King. We may never see that. He may not. And to be honest with you, I don't really care to see that too badly, because I've always thought that I want to see the Usyk fight, because I would. The strange thing is, I still pick Fury to win, even though all this avoidance and his, you know,
disingenuous.
People saying he's scared. He's scared of Usyk. He's scared of AJ. I'm sorry that you don't know what you're talking about. This guy wants to fight. He's a fighter. He's a prize fighter.
But I do think he's got to a point in his life now and career where he's more interested in the spotlight and the stage with maximum reward and minimum risk. I don't think he's seeking. I don't think he wants to fight killers anymore. I know that he has done, but I think right now when he fought Chisora and engineered that. That is cherry picking. You know, with no disrespect to Derek Chisora.
No, that was terrible. That was the biggest rock and roll swindle in boxing this century.
Do you know what I mean? So, I think with Fury, let's say I want to see him fight Alexander Usyk because even though I'd favour Fury, still after everything that's been said, I would still favour him because he is a formidable heavyweight and he is huge. But there are certain questions Usyk would ask of him, and there is a fascination for me in seeing how Usyk handles it and whether he can pull it off. Yeah. And I would quite like Usyk to pull it off because he seems like a great guy. But nothing against Fury, by the way. Joshua Fury, I think, is a bit more straightforward. I think Fury would win the proverbial any day of the week. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think Fury would have to slip an awful lot to be in a position where he would lose that fight. So to me, that's just a big commercial fight in Britain because of the personalities. But I don't see it from a boxing perspective. I don't see that one as a great fight. It has me salivating and wondering about the result.
Yeah. Who knows? This interview might stand the test of time, and we might be right in what we're saying. There might be some fights never made, and we might be looking back at this, and Usyk and Fury might be made this summer, and they might sort the terms out. We don't know.
No, we don't know. I mean, what we do know. Like I say, there almost needs to be some kind of intervention. I know Dana White, the UFC mogul, has said that he's interested in dipping his toe into the waters of boxing, and he thinks he could get some of the fights made that boxing can't seem to make. And by the way, if Dana White, we maybe tag him in this, I'm willing to assist you in any way you like with that. If you do want to get involved in boxing and you come with a value base, which you seem to have, then I would help you in any way I can on any of that, you know.
And I'd do the interviewing at the shows. I'd be there with the Barnet Boxing Barber, pushing my platform, and I'd go any which way anybody wanted me.
Plans coming together.
Yeah. So, you know, we'll end it now, but we could talk forever. We usually do. And it's so nice of you to take your time out and come to the Indigo and meet me here. I was really looking forward to seeing you again, Ben. You know, everybody watching, you know, keep watching the Barnet Boxing Barber and, you know, keep punching. Keep punching. Cheers. Thanks, mate.
Cheers. No, nice one. Good.